Chapter 12. This is ill news. Summer is passing. Thorin's day will soon be upon us, Thorin stated sadly, looking up at the moon. We still have time. Balin reassured him. Time for what? I wondered out loud. To find the entrance. We have to be standing at exactly the right spot at exactly the right time. Then, and only then, can the door be opened. I nodded my head, understanding now how crucial it was to be in the right place at the right time. So this is your purpose, to enter the mountain? Elrond asked, looking down at Thorin. What of it? The dwarf responded, his voice now filled with disgust. I looked over at him and his brows had furrowed. He changed his stance and now looked ready to physically fight Elrond. There are some who would not deem it wise, the elf said, unaffected by Thorin. The dwarf grabbed the map off the table and walked over to stand with the rest of us. I could hear him muttering under his breath. He was angry. Angry because he didn't want to come here in the first place and now he was being told what to do. What do you mean? Gandalf asked him. You are not the only guardian to stand watch over Middle-earth. Elrond turned swiftly and left us alone in the room. Gandalf watched where he had left and shortly after, followed him. The three of us stood quietly, waiting for Thorin to make a move. Stupid elves, he mumbled, walking back towards the rest of the company. We were quick to follow. When we got back to the group, Thorin wandered off. Instead of following him, I waved a quick hello to Buffer and followed Bilbo, who had ventured up a set of stairs. He was probably looking to explore as much of Rivendell as possible before we had to leave. He smiled at me and I linked my arm with his. We got to a small landing and paused when he heard voices from below us. We looked down and noticed Gandalf was speaking with Elrond. They didn't realize they were not alone, and while I felt guilty for eavesdropping, I was interested in what they had to say. Of course I was going to tell you. I was waiting for this very chance. And really, I think you can trust that I know what I am doing, Gandalf was saying to the elf. Do you? That dragon has slept for 60 years. What will happen if your plan should fail, if you wake that beast? What if we succeed? If the dwarves take back the mountain, our defenses in the east will be strengthened. It is a dangerous move, Gandalf. I heard movement behind us and noticed Thorin was listening to the conversation as well. He didn't meet my gaze and kept his focus on the duo below us. It is also dangerous to do nothing. The throne of Erebor is Thorin's birthright. What is it you fear? Thorin had a small smile as he listened to Gandalf. Have you forgotten? A strain of madness runs deep in that family. His grandfather lost his mind, his father succumbed to the same sickness. This time when I looked back at Thorin, his face had fallen and he turned away from the noise. His eyes looked glossed over as Elrond continued. Can you swear Thorin Oakenshield will not also fall? Gandalf, these decisions do not rest with us alone. It is not up to you or me to redraw the map of Middle-earth. Thorin started walking away, but I was quick to grab his arm. I nodded at the stairs going up and he didn't resist when I pulled him. When we reached the top landing, I pulled us over to a bench and he took a seat beside me, looking down at his lap. I reached my hand over and placed it on his. He smiled softly and closed his hand around mine, finally looking up at me. He's not wrong, the dwarf whispered. Thorin. He's not though. It's called dragon sickness. My grandfather became so obsessed with his gold that he would have killed to protect it. He lost his mind to the sickness and his distraction costed him his life in battle. He looked up at me and his eyes were filled with sadness and pain. I am not my grandfather, he said, turning around and placing his hands on my cheeks. I slowly pulled them off and held them in my own hands. He looked so broken and part of me was nervous someone would come and interrupt us again. I don't care what Elrond said, I told him, lifting his chin so we could lock eyes. I believe you. Wait to tell the others. Wait to tell them about what? This, He gestured between the two of us. I care for you more than I feel I should, however I can't shake this need to be beside you always. I don't know what it is about you. Maybe it is because no matter how hard I try and push you away, you still care about me. So does this mean we pretend to hate each other? Because I can guarantee they are catching on to this. I made the same gesture he did, earning a small smile. We all believe in you, Thorin, I told him. I know. He placed his hand on the side of my neck and slowly brought my head closer to his. He placed a kiss on my forehead before resting his own forehead against mine. We sat like this for a short while before I pulled away and stood up. Come on, if we are to keep this on the down low, disappearing for an hour just the two of us probably doesn't help. He grabbed my hand and pulled himself up. Before I could turn away, he pulled me towards him and into a hug. He wrapped his arms around my waist and rested his head in my neck. I placed my hands around his neck and my head rested on his chest. I could feel his heartbeat racing and I looked up at him with a smirk. Are you nervous, Thorin Oakenshield? I giggled. What? Absolutely not. I laughed at him and he gave me a smile. Come on, let's go now, before they start making up stories. Let them, he whispered, pulling me back for a hug, at least for a few more minutes. I just want to stay here for a bit.
I'm glad you enjoyed that video / gameplay. Just remember to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below. Until next time, goodbye!